131, and you are tuned into Heart Connections with your heart coach, Adelai Brown, on your community station with international inspiration, kinetichifi.com. It is time for Heart Talk. This is the talk portion of our show. This is where we come to renew our minds and restore our hearts. And man, I will tell you, time flies when you're having fun. I'm in here laughing in the studio. God, I thank you so much for revelation with confirmation. Let me tell y'all something. I am so committed to being your heart coach wherever you are on any of these 7 continents, at any space in the world where you are tuned in. Because this whole idea of Work It Out Wisdom Wednesday and you knowing who you are, what you are, where you are, when you're going to be who you are, why you are. And now we're going to talk about the how. This is, I think, the hardest part, the most difficult part outside of figuring out the who, but it's definitely necessary for us to talk about these things. This segment of Heart Talk is brought to you by Help Save Me from My Broken Heart. And you can pre-order your copy at theheartconnections.com, theheartconnections.com. The book is being released this month. I'm so thankful for it because everything you hear me talking about on Heart Talk is in this book encompasses everything you hear me talking about, my style of teaching and the way I share with you guys. And this book is going to help you be free. This book is going to help you get a transplant so you can let go of that old hard heart that you have, that you feel you have to protect yourself and you feel like you have to figure everything else out. And you can receive a new heart, a heart from the Father, a heart where you're loved and a heart of peace and a heart of fulfillment. It comes with work, but it is definitely necessary. And I want this for you. And that's why we're talking about this today, because it's important for us to understand how we're supposed to be who God called us to be. We talked about who we are. We talked about what we are, when we are, where we are, why we are. Now we need to talk about how. I think many of us get caught up in the how. We get caught up in, oh my God, okay, God, I know who I am. I know that you create. If you just got a chance to catch that diamond in the rough segment and you heard Pastor John Hagee and all of those powerful things that he was saying of who we are in Christ. And he was just calling off all types of things. And I just want to nothing can stop you, child of God. That was the title of that motivation. Nothing can stop you, child of God. And I was sitting there thinking, if you don't know who you are, you would never know that all of those things you're privy to being a victorious in everything. And you're privy to having covering and protection and getting favor at times when it doesn't even make sense for you to get favor, grace and mercy. All of these things come when you know who you are. When you know who you are in Christ, you find out everything else about you. But you have to be willing to get to know who you are. And then you also have to be willing to walk that out. One of the things that I found is trying to figure out how keeps so many people stuck in one spot. Well, I don't know what's the right way to do it. So I'm gonna just keep thinking and planning until I can come up with something perfect that people won't talk about me with, because that's really what people are trying to do. People are trying to avoid being critiqued, being judged, being talked about. So once we find out who we are and we understand that we have a greater purpose in life, we understand that it's going to cost us something. I'm going to have to be who I am at all times. I can't pick and choose when I want to be who I am. I have to be who I am at church and at home. I have to be who I am at school and at work. That does not change. The problem is too many of us change with whatever environment we're in. We need to learn to anchor down in who God called us to be and stay there. If one of the things with me, and I was just sharing a story earlier off the air, is that thinking about the who, what, when, where, and why is very personal to me, because I have been so tempted to just go back to my old way of living, go back to my background in healthcare, go back and get a job back in healthcare, and that'll just make life easier on me and things will be more consistent, because building this movement of heart connections and Be Blessed Daily has not been easy, but it has been so rewarding. And sometimes things get so tough and things get so difficult, I start to lust over the thoughts of how the past used to be. But one thing we have to understand, when things get hard and we start thinking about, if I just go back the way I was, things will be better. You have to remember how you were when you were in that space. And almost always you wanted to get out of there. Almost always you wanted something different when you were there. And God reminded me of that. The problem is many people are not willing to make the sacrifice to get from where they are to where they want to be. That bridge, and that's the how. That's the how. And the how is different from for each and every one of us. I had to quit my job. I had to quit my job. And, you know, I can tell you the truth. I know that God called me to do it, but I would never suggest to anybody else to do it the way I did it. I can promise you that, because it was hard and difficult. And I know that there are other ways that it can be done. But do I think that I stepped out on faith the wrong way? I don't. I know that God knows me well enough to know that if I had to wait to get everything perfect for me to start my coaching and authoring and mentoring, I would still be sitting at that desk right now, writing down plans, filling up all of the notepads at the office, all of the legal pads with all of my ideas. I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of ideas, but I hadn't been putting anything into action. And I was getting frustrated with everybody else around me, but didn't realize that I was the one that needed to make a move. And the problem is we get so focused on the how. Well, how is this going to work? How am I going to quit my job, Lord? How am I going to do these things? We get so focused on the how instead of doing what, back to the what, instead of doing what he called us to do. So what happens is we get distracted, and now we're not effective because we're not focused on where we need to be. And I know you're like, Adelaide, I would live my life on purpose, and I would get out there and do what you're doing every day if I knew what I was supposed to be doing, or if I felt like I could pay my bills. Let me tell you something. It's not going to be comfortable. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. You might not be able to catch every event that's going on with the family. If you need to take those courses to get the certification that you need to live a life the way you need to live and to give back the way you need to give back. And another reason why many of us get so caught up on the how is because we are so focused on ourselves. We are so self-centered. We have to realize that we belong to ourselves, but we're not our own. God put us here for a purpose. It goes back to the who and the why. He put us here for a purpose. He decides how he's going to use us in that purpose, how he's going to have us act out that purpose. We have to be obedient and submit to that. And some of us are so rebellious that we can't even submit to the idea about what we want to do in life. My ladies, I don't mind submitting to a man, but I'm not submitting to a man that doesn't know what he's doing. And who told you you knew what you were doing as a woman? Just because that's what all your friends do, and that's what your mama or the women in your family may have been doing, that does not mean that you're necessarily correct in what you're doing. And that's what I want us to think about when we're thinking about the how. We need to surrender the how to God, but we need to be vulnerable and submitted to what that how may be. I have had to have conversations with people that I thought I didn't like. I have had to go places that I did not want to go. I have had to go places where I knew I was not wanted. I know they didn't want me there. I know they didn't want to talk to me. But God said, this is how you're going to be the who I created you to be. You're going to have to do this. This is a part of you being that who. It's what I've called you to do. This is where I want you to do it. And this is when I want you to do it. Why are you giving me problems with that? We wonder why our lives are so chaotic. We wonder why things are not working out for us. It's because we're more focused on doing our own thing instead of seeking God for what do you want us? What do you want me to do, Lord? How do you want this done? That's where I am in this season of my life. I am very clear now on what I'm supposed to be doing. I am submitting to him to know how it's supposed to be done. And a lot of you think you have to stay in one place until you figure out the how. No, you don't. You have a lot of other unfinished business that you need to take care of. There's a lot of unforgiveness. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of worry. There's a lot of envy and jealousy that's secret. You're envying your friends and family members because things are going good for them. You love them. You care about them, but you're envying them. Why? You know why? You know what God told me when I went to him about that? He said, because you're not doing what you're supposed to do and you're so focused on them, you're distracted. And that distraction is causing you havoc, is causing you to miss out on life right now because you're distracted. I want you to keep that in mind. As you think about who you are, don't get so caught up in what you are. The only way you can be the what that you are is because of who you are. So if somebody asks you, who are you? Don't you start saying, oh, I'm a mother, I'm a husband, I'm a business owner. This is how much money I have in the bank. That's what, but that's not who. And then it also shows us how shallow we are, where our focus really does lie. It when you start to tell people who you are, it tells people what you value. And that's a difficult pill to swallow. Because if the first thing comes out of your mind is your profession, and that's all you value, and that's how you vet people and validate them, you have some work to do. That's very shallow. That's something you have to work on. You can't take that job with you when you leave here. We have to focus on what we can take when we leave here. How are you treating people? How are you treating yourself? What are you giving? When we're in need and we're in lack, you know what we're supposed to do? Give. But some people can't do that because they don't know who they are. So they're stuck in who they think they are. Mistaken identity crisis. We like to look at people physically, we can see them going through identity crisis, but many of us are going through it emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and we have to work on that. So let's start to figure out who we are, and that'll solve that. You think about it. This has been Heart Talk with your heart coach, Adelai Brown, on your community station with international inspiration, kinetichifi.com. This is it. We'll be back to close out shortly. Make sure you pre-order your copy of the book, Help Save Me from My Broken Heart, at theheartconnections.com. In the meantime, this is what happens when you allow God to use you for the how. You are that one man or woman that will change the world. Don't believe me? Heart Talk at 10:30.